So I have my laptop with me all the time when I'm living. And when I'm working, I also tend to just leave the desk multiple times during the day. Sometimes, like if right now, if I'm working on the course, I would be writing something and then taking a break, like going to the kitchen, doing something or doing some cleaning, and then come back here and then go outside, buy some stuff for the house and then come back home. This is how I spend most of my day. And then to top this off, or actually that is the foundation of that. Time management would be like the top of the pyramid for me. The foundation for that is healthy eating and exercise, taking care of your health, because if you have back pain, if you have headaches or anything like that, no matter how organized you are, you're just not going to be able to get things done. And I force myself to take breaks, literally. Sometimes I feel like I do want to work at night when I'm in the mood for it, but I know that if I do that, if I work at night after working an entire day, I know that the next day I'm not going to be able to do anything. So if I'm going to strike a balance, I force myself away. I just try to find a good movie or something to watch.
Yeah, I think so. So for me, the interesting realization happened when I realized that everything that I'm doing at night, I have to rework in the morning in some way or the other. I have to adjust, and it's just not as good as it could have been if I just maybe went to sleep earlier and then actually woke up earlier as well as a result of that. So that has been a major shift. But also when you look about, exercising and all those things, it's feels like there is never time because you don't prioritize time to find time for it. It's not like it's, if there are important things in life, you really have to prioritize them in order to
You mean for exercising? No time.
Yeah,
for
like
exercising?
even for exercising. Yeah, because I would wake up. I mean, I don't know around what about you, of course, but I would wake up at maybe 8-ish, maybe sometimes now earlier than that, now around maybe 6:30 or 7. But I would wake up at 8 and then I would be working and I'm thinking, oh, I'm the most productive during the morning hours, so no way I'm going to go to the gym. And then I would have maybe something like this in the evening or workshops or trainings or something like that. So by the end of the day, there is just no will, I guess, to go somewhere and then exercise and then go back. And so I would just never do that. And then the time passes by.
Maybe
so it's, yeah.
Something that might help is like having a small gym at home.
Yeah, I do have some things, but what I started doing is just going in the morning, and I realized my productivity is just better if I have less time. It's like, people with children, the same story. If you have less time at your hands, you are much better at optimizing this time because you know that this is the time frame you have. This is all you've got. If you don't finish at the time, well, then, you have to do it next time because it's just, you're not going to get extra day or extra time that you're given from working late. That's just not happening, right? There are plenty of wonderful things happening here in the Fig Jam, so I want to share it again, right? So I think we should make it open. That would be really fun to see what everybody else is writing, right? So that's very, very cool to see here. Wow. Cool. That's nice. That's great. Dear friends, we could be doing this forever, of course. And if you have any questions, please feel free to bring up your questions. And so we can actually have those conversations right here. On my end, I think one useful thing that would be important to consider is when you're working with different companies and organizations, Sarah, I guess that most of the time, the expectations will be, you're not going to be called on Saturday evening or something to be asked, where is this and where is that? But some other people, and please correct me if I'm wrong, dear attendees, will have a slightly different view on that. Hopefully not, but sometimes you are expected almost to work overtime to finish and to meet the deadline. Do you have any deadlines that are kind of given to you? Or is it mostly you kind of saying, okay, this is the time I will need to get it done, and we're going to work around that? What is it like for you, Sarah?
No, of course, it's going to be different for a freelancer. The experience for a freelancer is different from the experience for someone who works full-time. If you're working full-time, then maybe, I don't know, I don't have any experience with full-time work, but I can imagine that your boss would feel like they're entitled to, because you're full-time for some bosses is unfortunately full-time, like all the time. But for a freelancer, it's different because like when I get an idea of what the scope of the project is, what the requirements are, we basically scope that stuff together, and I approximate how much time I estimate how much time I'm going to need to finish the working on this project. And then of course I add to that time so that I always have some extra leeway. And we always make sure that there's a contract. when there's a contract, you're probably going to be fine. And set expectations. Again, this applies to freelancers much more than full-timers. Set expectations right. So I started working 4-day weeks starting October or November last year. That's when I started working with Nicolas Zakas on the ESLint website redesign. So I set the expectations from the beginning that I work from Monday to Thursday and Friday to Sunday is my time off. And it's been successful because of that, because when you set the expectations right, you're fine. I know it's not the same for everyone. I consider myself pretty privileged with my work because all of my clients have been amazing. And the experience that I've gotten throughout the past 10 years, they've got me to a position where I can do this confidently. But I know that for a lot of people who are just getting started and who absolutely need the money, maybe they sometimes do things to please the clients because they have to do it. So I'm very wary of giving a lot of advice when I know that I come from a pretty privileged position when it comes to this stuff.
Right. Okay. Well, there is one important question from Karis, which is totally different direction of what I was intending to do, but because we prioritize questions coming from the chat, I do have to ask, and I will ask. Well, question for Sara. What are you doing on that extra day you have left? Do other work feel guilty?
I definitely don't feel guilty. No. So when you have 3 days off instead of just 2, it just feels longer. It literally feels longer than 3 days. So what I tend to do is there's one day that's going to be completely off, no work at all, probably. And then the other 2 days, either I work on some personal project, which is my website, or the course when I was working on the course and client work at the same time. Now I'm working on it full time. I can work on anything I want or not work at all. And sometimes if I'm up to it, and I did that with the ESLint project at the end of the project, if I'm feeling like I do want to work on something, like if I was working on a component, for example, on Thursday and I didn't finish it, and I'm really excited about finishing it, I might work on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, but the client still knows that this is not something that I can expect all the time. And most of the time, I make sure that they don't know that I worked. So I don't even push to GitHub during these 3 days. But definitely no guilt at all.
Yeah. Do you find yourself then, if you compare this, I mean, I guess that you have started doing this not, when did you actually start working 4 days a week?
That was November 2021.
Okay, so just recently. So would you say that how is your productivity or the output of your work, let's say, compared to before and after?
Much better, much better. And I know that I've heard also from similar experiences from other people who started working 4 days a week, and they also said that their productivity went up. I don't know what the psychological or physical, or I'm pretty sure that there is a reason. And I think I have an entire book about the 4-hour, that's the 4-hour, not 4-day work week. But there is research and other people's experiences that back this up. It's definitely better. It feels different. The job is different. I don't know how to explain it. I think the only way to experience that is to do it yourself. Try it if you can, especially if you're a freelancer and you can do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's a note from Miguel, who is saying that not every person is a morning person, of course. He's been more productive at night and training at noon, but ended up burning anyway because I tend to underpromise and overdeliver. I have, as Sara said, restrained myself. Yes, I'm afraid. So frankly, I have to admit, Miguel, that I'm pretty much the same, but I'm doing it a little bit differently. So I do underpromise and I do overdeliver, but however best, when I frame, let's say, the pricing, the over delivery is accounted for in that pricing.
Yes.
So that's kind of important. So I don't just go ahead and say, okay, this is the time I'm giving you, but I will give you 1, 2, 3 extra weeks. That's not happening. But it's more like I account for this extra time already when the pricing happens, right? And of course, we can have a conversation about that also, Sara, about what happens if the client comes back to you and says, well, this is not quite what I expected it to be. We need to change X, Y, and Z, and probably A as well. How do you deal with that? Or what is your strategy to avoid things like that from happening?
Well, it's a little bit different for a developer than it is for a designer. I imagine these kinds of iterations happen for designers more than they do for developers, because I've never had a client come up to me and say, you've implemented this different to what we've expected, because the implementation is usually, well, there are specific
specification.
Yeah, there are specs and there's specific behavior that we're just implementing. But with design, it's completely different. But the only thing I can say is protect yourself with a contract. So factor these into the contract. How many iterations are okay? And I think I also had one of my previous projects where we specified when the last iteration would be allowed. Yeah,
right.
because when I started developing or implementing the design wasn't finished yet. And I was thinking, okay, so what if we have only like 2 left till the end of the project, which is the end of the project in the contract. That was June 15th a few years ago. What happens if we only have 2 weeks left before the end of the project and then the design is finished? And I don't have, like, these 2 weeks are not enough to finish working on the design. So we had to factor that in. And you need to make sure that by that specific date, I'm not going to accept any more changes anymore. So, or some people do it by number of iterations. So you're allowed to iterate on the design 3 times. Others, they're fine with more iterations, and it depends on very much on the workflow and the process that you're doing. But definitely factor that into the contract. And what Vitaly said, I just wanted to plus 100, not plus 1, that factor in. I always under promise and over deliver. That is one of my principles in work, always. But factor that in. Always give yourself more time. So I mentioned this before. If I think that this project is going to probably take about 4 weeks, I estimate 6 weeks instead. And because there's always, like, sometimes there's going to be bugs, and sometimes there's going to be changes in the design, or when I'm implementing a design, I realize that this specific design spec has accessibility or usability problems, and then I have to go back to the designer and we have to discuss this. So you need to factor all of these things in. If you give yourself enough time and you make sure that you're being paid for that work that you're delivering as extra, you're probably not going to burn out anymore.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I think it's,
at least. Yeah, exactly. So I think it's been very interesting for me to explore that many companies have been very strategic about the scope of work as they define it. So while in the past I was working with companies where it was just, oh, well, okay, well, let's just go, let's do this, right? And maybe there was a contract which was just 1 page, 2 pages. Now it's more like sometimes 14 pages, 20 pages, and it's not legalese. I'm not talking about kind of legal text, but it's more about, it's like everything that you need to know about the project is there. So a company would go ahead and say, okay, so you came to us as our client to implement something. We're going to write this documentation basically which is a contract, which is 17, 20 pages long. And it would include, this is how we understand you, right? This is your problem. This is how we intend to solve it. This is the team that's going to work on it. This is the process that's going to be involved. This is the feedback and the time that we expect, your timely feedback. These are the iterations that will be accepted. These are the things that will not be expected. And the magical sentence that is repeated sometimes 2 or 3 or 4 times. Late changes are expensive and difficult to implement. Right. So this is mentioned all the way. So it's kind of educating clients, because again, imagine if somebody is coming from a very different industry, like let's say, I don't know, hotel management or anything like that, and they expect you to build an application for them. They might not know that if they want to change their mind in, around features, let's say, that it has a tremendous impact on the time of delivery, on the scope and dependencies and all. They might just not know that. So we need to tell them. And so it's then up to you to figure out if you're going to build everything literally separately or not, right? Or every individual change, or if you want to be kind and say, okay, for that particular case, that's fine, right? But it's important that they know upfront. So one thing that I personally can recommend from my end is invest in having a good template for the scope of work. So it's not just, we're going to design a website for you and it's going to contain these navigation items, right? But really going to fine detail in trying to make the best out of that, right? So that's quite important. Do you say, Sara, in your case as a contractor, do you have your own contract template, or do you usually use the one that companies provide you with? Oh, I think you're muted. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I do have mine. I use it with most of my clients, and sometimes the client, like someone I worked with a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, he said that like he doesn't even know what the process is like. And when I asked him about like if he has a contract he prefer to use, he said, no, I'll just use whatever you use. Okay. So I sent him mine. And there are companies that have their own. And of course, whether it's yours or theirs, you're both going to read the contract and agree on everything that's in it. So I'm fine either way.
Yeah, indeed. Right. So yeah, this is always an interesting conversation. I also heard, well, because you just mentioned it literally 32 minutes ago, I guess, that you use value-based pricing. How did it work out for you? When did you switch to it?
I never worked hourly.
Okay. Okay. So, and you never worked on a project basis, like a flat fee or anything like that?
Yeah, I remember when I worked on, we don't need to talk about details, but when I worked on Smashing magazine redesign, we didn't do it hourly. I don't think hourly is a fair pricing strategy. And I think Dan Moll is with us today. I don't know, but if anyone's interested in learning more about value pricing, I was very much influenced by his book, by the way. Dan has influenced many aspects of my business. Thank you, Dan. So hi. Yeah, so
hello,
he has a book called, what is it called? Value pricing.
Value pricing. Yes.
Yeah, buy a book apart. So highly recommend it if you haven't read it. Of course, if you haven't read it, go ahead and read it. If you're interested in doing value pricing, that's an excellent book to read to get started. And I do recommend value pricing if you can do it. I know we once had, super friendly, we had this discussion. There was I think it was a lunch hour or something. I don't remember. I'm sorry, my English sucks sometimes. But we basically, there was this discussion, someone who knows much better about these things than I do. I was basically just a fly on the wall that day, and I was just listening. There's a difference between value pricing and project pricing and how each of these work. That was a fantastic hour. I don't know if there's a recording and if it has been shared publicly or not, but either way, don't do hourly. I don't think it's fair for you. It's just, read Dan's book.
Yeah, I just pasted the link to the book as well. I am wondering though, how do you? I found it very difficult for me to kind of get into this, to be honest. Just because, how can I know, for example, for design work, just how much value it actually gets? Because in the end, with development, you can see, okay, so we changed the code, we deployed the new version, and performance has improved, accessibility has improved, and you have this metrics right there.
You can measure it, yeah.
Yeah. So I've been thinking, and I've been writing a little bit about design KPIs, and this is, so for the current project that I'm working on with the European Parliament, that's pretty much the spirit. Like everything is very much evidence-based around design KPIs, and that's probably a conversation for another article at some point. That was really difficult to get there, and design decisions are then argued on a, not as a kind of something that's subjective in the matter of taste or anything. It's just literally based in terms of how quickly do people find a particular piece of information, how can they complete top tasks that they have to do on the site and so on. But how do you work around the value? Like, how do you determine the value of your work then? If I may.
I can't speak for designers.
Yeah, but I mean, in development.
In development.
So do you? Yes, please go ahead.
A lot of the estimation is based on, dare I say, half of it even sometimes is based on gut feeling, but even that gut feeling is based on experience, based on past projects. And I've even had clients, some of them ask me literally to, like, for a project this size, and some of them are very specific, like for a project that's 5 or 6 or 7 pages that you've worked on in the past, how much have you charged before? So I can give them an estimate. And some of them even ask for seeing the live site and stuff like that. But even that doesn't always work, because you may build 5 or 6 or 7 static pages versus 5, 6, 7 very interactive animated pages, and the amount of work is different. So for me, most of the estimation happens around how much time do I think that implementation this is going to take? And then you factor that amount of time, how much you normally get paid, not per hour, of course, during that amount of time. And then you factor into that the value of the work that you're doing. It's very hard. I don't have a hard rule that I follow.
All right. So it's not like a formula or something that you say, okay, a bit of this, a bit of that, and so on. It's more like a gut feeling, right?
it's not entirely a gut feeling. Like I said, it's a lot of it is based on experience and past work. But I know that other people they literally have formulas like plus and times and hours and dollars, and I don't do that.
Yeah, I just really haven't found really a way into it. I think Laurie has asked the question. So do you always work directly with designers, or do you, do you?
In the last few years, yes, I've been pretty lucky with that, because to be honest, even if I get a project where I'm asked to just implement a design, like the designer has designed something, we have the design, please implement this for us, I don't feel as excited to take on these projects anymore, because first of all, it makes me feel like a machine. I'm not a machine. I feel like, you're just someone who looking at the design and coding that design. There's nothing exciting about that. And I don't feel like I'm doing something meaningful in that kind of work. I don't feel like I'm contributing to the work. And what I do want to do is contribute to the work, because I know that I have a lot of experience with accessibility and usability and even user experience design, that I can contribute to the design decisions. And there's a lot of specifications that are needed for implementing the design that are not usually even included in design mockups. I hate the idea of getting a design mockup and then implementing that. I think I did that for the first few years of my job, and then I was like, I'm not doing that anymore. So now, yes, most of my work, even all of it in the last few years, has been with, actually the ESLint website was an exception, because they had already finished the design and they wanted to start implementing it. But I was working with Nicolas the entire time. And we had this agreement that if there is any problem with the design when it comes to accessibility or how something is supposed to work, I'm free to suggest changes. And I had these discussions, basically, instead of having them with the designer, I had them with Nicolas. And I loved it, because it's just great. I just don't want to feel like I'm a machine who's just turning pictures into something.
Something else. Would you say that, it can go on forever, of course. I have so many questions, but again, dear friends, I just want to remind you that you can ask all the questions you have. And Laurie, I will get into your CSS feature question just in a moment. I just wanted to finish a thought before that. And if you have any questions, please write them in the chat. I am reading the chat, of course, as well. Would you say, Sara, that you have some particular types of projects or type of work or type of clients, maybe from particular industries and so on, that you would always say no to?
Oh, yes. Some of them, I'm not going to go into details right now, but some of them even are for religious reasons. Some of them are for ethical, moral reasons. Some of them are for possibly political reasons. It depends. Yeah, definitely. I just want to do something meaningful. We had this discussion on the Smashing podcast. And now, instead of thinking about who I would say no to, I just thinking about if it's not a hell yes or no. I don't know if you've read that book by Derek Sivers, I think. He has, it's the title is Hell Yes or No. So either you're super excited about something that hell yes, I want to work on it, or it's a no. Now, I don't always apply this to my work, but I'm just the idea that I'm thinking about what do I want to work on versus what I don't want to work on. And I don't get a lot of projects that I don't want to work on.
Sure. I think it's one thing that kind of relates to it slightly is Mike Cuss, who is a great illustrator from the UK. He said one thing once, which I thought is brilliant. He said, well, when I'm pricing my projects, I just want to give them a quote or price which makes me enthusiastic enough to work on that project, right? That's his golden rule, basically. So that means, whatever price I'm going to get, I just want to make sure that I feel very excited about this and I'm really enthusiastic to deliver my best work, right? So that, of course, means that we do not want to work with clients that we do not want to work with, right?
That reminded me of something. It's not entirely related, and it's not exactly about pricing.
That's okay. It's smashing talk show. Smashing hour.
It is kind of about that. So if I got, it's not exactly about me, and I'm just going to mix two stories together. Okay. So basically, suppose that you're a freelancer and you got an offer to do a workshop for a client. Actually, a friend of mine told me this about a friend of his who also does workshops. So basically, that guy got an offer to do a workshop in Europe, and he lives in the US. And he was like, it's not, he didn't want to fly to Europe basically, and he didn't have the time to do it. So he asked for a ridiculously high price for the workshop. And he was like, they're definitely going to say no to that. But they said yes. And when they said yes, the price was so ridiculously high that it made the flight to Europe worth it. So I started kind of doing that with some of the projects. I literally did that with one. I asked for a price that I was pretty sure that they were going to say no. But
Is
when
it a smashing project?
No, no, definitely not. That was a more recent project. I knew that they were going to say, I was sure that they were going to say no. But when I talked to the CEO and I said, well, this is how much I want to charge for this project, he said, okay. So I literally stood there and I was like, okay, that was easy. So yeah, I not overpriced, to be fair. I mean, I usually charge between, for example, X and Y, and I was going to consider charging X for that project. And so I decided to charge Y instead. You should have ethics, of course. I'm not going to charge like $100,000, for example, for a project that is $10,000 worth. Just an example.
Sure.
But I charged a little bit more because I knew that this project was going to take more time than I wanted to give it. And I wasn't super excited about it. But they said yes, and that ended up to be one of my absolute favorite projects of all time. Not because I was paid a lot for it, but it was different. Sometimes even the projects that you think are going to suck, literally, they end up being amazing. I've had 2 projects like that.
Okay, all right. Well, we have a few questions coming in, so I do have to ask, of course, and I do want to ask. We have one from Lori. Well, about CSS, of course. What is the new CSS feature that's widely usable now that you find the most helpful in your work?
I don't have a specific one. I have a combination of features. So I would say subgrid with the hash selector and a little bit of container queries.
Right, but subgrid isn't quite there yet, except for Firefox, right?
I know.
Oh, I'm so excited about subgrid. This is getting ridiculous. I'm so excited. It's like, I even had a dream about subgrid once. Did anybody else have a dream about subgrid? That would make us a family, I guess. That would be very confusing. But yeah, it's like I've also, I have this advertising unit here. And if I only could align it to this navigation menu in the right upper corner, and, I would try to do those, well, why am I talking about this? I don't know. But it's like, yeah, that would be really, really cool. All right, another question that came from Karis. I would love to know what your favorite type of clients are. Or in general, what are your favorite type of people to work with? Are those people who like pizza? That was another one for me.
Yeah. I know. Not if they like pineapple pizza. We can't be friends then.
That's hard. We will skip that note. All right. But what kind of clients do you find? Like if somebody just sends you an email, like we're working in this company, we're working on this product. We want to maybe create an accessible product or design a landing page or anything like that. How do you choose and say, okay, that's something I want to work with?
2 factors there. One of them is completely selfish, and the other one is not. So I would love to work on any project that is doing something meaningful to the world. If the company is doing something meaningful, I want to help them do it. Like if I help them create a website, I'm helping them spread the work that they're doing. I would love that. And the other part that is a little bit more selfish is anything that excites me, basically. Like I'm a sucker for interior design. I would absolutely love. I'm still waiting for an opportunity to work on an interior design website, for example. So it's not like that kind of work is not super meaningful work in the meaningful sense, probably, maybe, but it's something that I would leap on a chance to work on. And then there's also for example, I once got an offer from, it's a big international organization that has the yellow logo theme thing. I forgot the name. They do humanitarian work.
Yellow. I can only think of red one.
Amnesty.
And blue one.
Yeah, that's
Amnesty. Okay.
Yeah, Carrie's got it. So I got an offer from Amnesty, but they wanted they were working on a design system back then, And I know I can work on a design system. I know I can do what the things that they were requiring to do, but because I didn't have any prior experience with it, unfortunately, and I'm saying this because I want you to know that these things happen. You know, sometimes you get a job offer, and because you don't have any prior experience or prior projects, they specifically ask for previous design system projects, and I didn't have any at that time.
Yeah.
So they chose another way. They went another way.
Okay.
So if they're doing something meaningful, or if it's completely selfish, something that I want to work on just because I like it.
There is one project I would love to work on, because I think it would be very complicated and very difficult and annoying and frustrating, and I would learn a lot from it, I think. And that would be working on some sort of a financial stock screener where you have, I don't know, hundreds of filters, and you have really complex tables with multi-sorting and editing and data analysis and everything else combined. That would be very exciting. Wouldn't you agree?
You have a very weird passion for tables and filters.
Tell me about it. I like subgrid. I dream about subgrid. So what do you expect from me, I guess? But this is, I think it would be really exciting. I mean, if you think about, I mean, there are so many challenges in there. That's just unbelievable. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Not there yet. Not there yet. Question from Sarah. And Sarah, don't worry, we don't have any basic questions here. That's all fine. Sarah wondering, I'm just starting out as a freelance UX designer. Obviously, it's a little bit different from you, Sara, although you do like UX as well. Any tips for starting out to find clients?
Actually, I think that question was more for you, not for me, because you're the designer or the one who works
me.
I mean, you have the UX design course, right?
That's true. Yes.
Yeah. So I think you should be answering that.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe just briefly. So for me, I think the most important thing is I never really advertise it at all, and the reason why I wanted to kind of keep it this way is because I like to work on projects I really like. And so what happens is usually, you know, one project will lead you to another if you actually can deliver a good result. And so for me, it's been a word of mouth, but also just being visible. I think that's important in development and design. If you're visible and you write articles and you, I don't know, you participate in podcasts and you put something out there, be it maybe a template kit, maybe it's a icon set, or maybe anything, right? You kind of need to cultivate your connections and networking, and that's, I think, the most important part. One thing I would probably try to stay away from, and that's maybe again my personal decision at this point, I would try to stay away from plenty of services which provide you with tons of projects where you can bet on the price, where you can say, okay, I can do this for $50, or I can do this for $30. Personally, I think that if you go in this route and you say, okay, I'm really willing to create a WordPress site for $50 or $100, I don't know, or even 500, you will probably stay there for a long time. And this bottom part where kind of really have to compete with other people on low price, that's probably not what you want. I think it's very important to know what you actually want and then try to work towards it. So if you feel like your passion lies in landing page design, or illustration, or anything really, just do something around that, write articles about that, write, I don't know, create a Telegram channel or Twitter something where you highlight landing pages or anything like that, and just be the name that comes up when you have conversations, or where people have conversations about your topic, and that would be your way in. Of course, you still need to make money, of course, right? That's so you might need to do something that you might not want to do work-wise, not necessarily landing pages, but I don't know, financial stock screener applications with tons of tables and filters, who knows, right? But in the end, you kind of need to navigate towards the area that you like. I think that's probably the most critical part.
That's great advice.
Oh, thank you. So we have another question from Tia.
Yeah.
As a developer, what sort of documentation, annotations, information, Figma or other file showing code would you prefer from designers to make building an application easier?
To be honest, I prefer not to get any specs from designers. I prefer to work with designers directly. Okay, I thought I was muted.
No.
But if I'm not working with a designer, a lot of stuff like behavior, and I'm not just talking about hover styles or focus states. Focus states are rarely ever included in specs because designers don't really think about keyboard functionality all the time. But there's a lot of stuff, like sometimes sometimes some basic things like, is this a link or is this a button? Like one of the things that that was in the ESLint website, there was this select drop down that, for example, there was the language switcher and there was the version switcher. And the first thing that I thought of is what happens when one of these is clicked? So does it go to a separate page with a different URL? Then it's a link. Does it not do that? Does it change the context of the page? In that case, I'm going to need to use ARIA Live regions. So there's a lot of behavioral stuff and usability things that you need to think about that is rarely ever mentioned in design specs. And I don't even expect them to be included because the designer would need to be familiar with all of these implementation details in order to include them. And they're not expected to know them. That's why I think the most successful designs are the ones that where both design and development work in tandem. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that I would want to have included. And I'm pretty sure that most of the time, not all of them are going to be included anyway.
Right, makes sense. Okay, more questions. Vince says, hey, and hey, back to you, Vince. Wonderful to have you here. Bharat says, hi, Sara, from a front-end development perspective, do you also work on the template implementation of the actual site or hand over the HTML, CSS to developers in a big project? In that case, a collaboration until the site goes live is important for all developers.
Okay, do you work on the template implementation on the actual site or hand over HTML, CSS? Oh, it depends on the project. So sometimes I work on components, basically build a pattern library and then hand it over to someone. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I work on the actual site, like, for example, again, the ESLint website, the most recent one. The whole site was the marketing site. I built the entire thing, but then I also built the just the HTML and CSS for the they have a new code editor, online code editor, and that is going to require, like, it's going to be an application. So I think it was going to be built with React or something, and that was outside of my scope. So what I did, I built the HTML and CSS, and of course you need to include the documentation stuff, accessibility stuff. When you implement this and using JavaScript, make sure that you update these attributes, make sure that you convey the state here and there. Yeah, it depends on the project. Sometimes it's this, sometimes it's the whole thing.
Okay.
What's wrong with pineapple?
Yeah, that's
pineapple is one of my favorite fruits in the world. I almost always have pineapple at home, but it doesn't belong on pizza.
Says who?
Says me. Also the Italians say that.
Well, aren't you supposed to experiment and, I don't know, figure out your own truth in life?
I mean, I tried pineapples on pizza.
Maybe once. It was a bad pineapple.
No, maybe it was just bad taste.
Okay, let's skip that question. Let's move on.
Sorry, wait a minute. I don't want that to be misunderstood. I'm not saying that people who eat pineapple on pizza have bad taste. I mean, the stuff is fully subjective.
I didn't understand it this way. No, of course not. Good. It's just, yeah, well, we
just
can have an
endless conversation. Bad.
And I tried the Hawaii pizza once and it was okay. It wasn't the best pizza, but it was fine. It's not like we should be, abolishing it and say, no, never. Anybody agrees with me here? Anybody? Okay, I don't think anybody cares. All right, moving on to the next question. Carrie says that worked with architects and it was no fun. They think they are web experts, but they're not. All right. Okay. Oh, there are so many things happening here. Lori is wondering, how do you deal with maintenance and updating the things you build?
I don't usually, because I'm not responsible, because I'm a contractor. I work on a project for a specific amount of time, and I'm not responsible for the stuff that happens usually after that. What I can help with is make sure that there's enough documentation, right. Especially if we're talking about pattern libraries and components that are going to be reused across the site.
Yeah, so just reading Carrie's telling me not to talk about pizza again. All right, Sarah is saying, oh yes, my background is as a trading system BA, so the stock selector doesn't scare me too much. And it shouldn't be, Oh, okay, so this has brought up a conversation in the chat, of course. Well, Jules saying, well, I agree, but I don't call it pizza. Okay, Miguel is wondering, can I ask about the rising tension between scripting language frameworks and solving the project in the most simple, accessible way? Or is it too early? Miguel, for your questions, it's never too early. Sarah, what are we going to do about these two worlds, two camps, either all the way in JavaScript or all the way not JavaScript? Can we unite them in any way?
It doesn't have to be black or white. Okay, so there are two sides to this. Let me think about this one. All JavaScript or no JavaScript. There is no such thing as no JavaScript, unless you're talking about super static websites that don't need any JavaScript, of course.
Yeah, of course. And what I meant is kind of all JavaScript framework, JavaScript, heavy JavaScript, scripting kind of side of things, and then a little bit of vanilla JavaScript side of things.
All of that is fine. I don't normally work on that kind of heavy JavaScript stuff because it's not part of my work. I do HTML, CSS, accessibility, presentational JavaScript, basic stuff. But it doesn't have to be bad. Like the way I would judge it is if the user experience is good, then whatever the developer experience is fine. So if they want to go all in on JavaScript and they somehow manage to make it fast and work even on my connections, I get to judge everyone's website here. If they get to make it fast and accessible and the user experience is fine, then sure, why not? I don't know how much possible that is, but so if I were working on an application that is all JavaScript, as a design engineer, what I would require is just make sure that whatever that JavaScript is spitting out is, I mean, at the end of the day, it has to be HTML, right? If that HTML is accessible, if the experience is accessible, if the JavaScript is handling the state changes and everything, user experience. If the user experience is fine, then it doesn't matter if it's all JavaScript or not.
Okay, makes sense. Well, John brings up a very important question. First of all, happy birthday. Second of all, for the new accessibility course, some people are excited about it. What excites you most about it?
I'm having literally a fuzzy feeling in my heart right now. I was having a discussion yesterday with someone and I told him that regardless of what the result of the course is, whether people like it or not, I'm doing it because I want to do it, because there's something inside of me, I just need to do it. I've had a lot of ideas before for courses and for books and for projects. I didn't make it through all of them because I've lost the excitement. I just tend to do that. I'm that moody. But with this course, it's been different because I feel like I'm creating the course that I needed when I got started. The first time I heard about accessibility, it was just a tweet that passed through my timeline on Twitter. And then I realized that I was doing something bad because the work that I had building before wasn't very accessible. And I started following people and reading their blogs, but there wasn't just one place where I could find everything. And this isn't to say that the course is going to be everything. I would be lying if I said that it is, because nobody has all the answers, definitely. But I just feel like it's needed. I feel like it's needed, and I'm literally putting my heart into it. And that's probably why it's taking so much time, because I was just thinking yesterday that I should probably just stop diving so deep into all these topics. But then I think I want people to understand these things so that by the end of the course, and this is not marketing, I swear I'm not just making, I'm not just advertising for the course. I want people to, when they finish this course, feel more confident about accessibility, to know where to find the things that they're looking for, understand what they're doing, why this works, why this doesn't work, and if something doesn't work, how they can find the problems. With accessibility, of course, there's always going to be testing, user testing required, that's for sure. But there's a lot that you can do as a developer or a designer, a lot of it, and you can get a lot of insight into how the content that you're creating is going to be announced, how it should be announced. I just want people to, I don't know what the word for that is. I want them to be confident working with accessibility. I love this course, and I swear I'm not marketing it right now.
I think we all believe you. No worries there. That's great. That's great. Well, I'm very much excited to see the first. When do we get to see the first glimpse, by the way?
Once the DNS records, I'm still working on those. I have no idea if they've already updated or not. I'm sending out an email update today. So today I was supposed, those of you who are subscribed to the newsletter, so you're going to get the gist of the email right now. Today I was supposed to start pre-selling the course. So you could start pre-ordering. There's going to be a discount, so you can start ordering the course from now. And then I'm aiming for September for the final release, but then I'm also considering another plan because I want people to get access to it as soon as possible. But it didn't work out because I'm still waiting for approval from the payment. I don't even know what it's called in English, but basically I need to connect the back end to the place where I can start accepting payments, and we're still waiting for approval for that.
Okay. Yeah, well, fingers crossed that it's going to happen soon. Now, in the meantime, maybe just a few more questions, and we have only 4 minutes left of the smashing hour, so I'm going to try to be quick here. Paul is saying, our app isn't anything like a blog or newspaper. I have a hard time figuring out the semantic HTML because there is nothing like an article, a site, etc. How do you approach something like that?
Okay, there's a lot of, it depends. If you have a component a section, for example, that is neither an aside nor an article, sometimes you may need to create a custom region. And this is also something covered in the course, custom regions. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sorry, you looked like you froze. Again, case study, the ESLint code editor, there was this area, which is basically just like what you see in a code editor. You have this console where you get all the error messages and warnings. The console is not an aside, and it's not an article, and there is no semantic element to represent it. So what I did, and I think that was the right decision, is I created a custom region and I gave it a name, which is console. So we had the console region and we had the editor region, that was the main one, and we had the configuration region. Also, as far as semantic HTML goes, article and aside, they don't always, also covered in the course, article is not always conveyed it doesn't always provide the semantics of an article. It depends on, let me give an example. Header has role banner. Okay, so the user knows that this is a banner, but if header is not used as in the context of the body element, it doesn't convey those same semantics. So the accessibility mappings of HTML elements are not always the same. And there are a lot of HTML elements that don't have meaningful accessibility mappings. A lot of stuff to cover in that area. I could literally talk for an hour about this, so it's not the time for now. But you can create custom regions, basically, too long didn't read answer.
Excellent. Well, I think we're almost at the hour, I guess, at this point, because it's your birthday, Sara. What do you wish to this world and to this community and to this, today's June 15th? Any parting words, and that you would like, because it's your day, so you can wish for anything, and it will happen, because I believe so. So what would you wish today?
I don't want to say.
Okay, but maybe imply? No.
Okay, so there's a lot of, it just feels cliche when I say I want people to feel safe and to live in peace and stuff. We all want that. I just hope that we as designers and developers, we work to make people's lives better. I'm just being very specific right now. So we are designers and we are developers. We have responsibility and we have power. I just hope that we use that to make other people's lives better.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for this, Sara. Just because there is and I agree totally with Maria, this is not a cliche. It's always, especially now, it's very true and very meaningful. So thank you so much for sharing that. Also, just because some people are wondering, where can they find out more about the video course?
Practical-accessibility. I keep typos, access. I can't count how many times I mistyped accessibility in the course. That's where you can subscribe to the newsletter. I'm sending out an email today. The email is going to contain a high-level table of contents, so all of the main topics that we're covering in the course. And the next time I send an email update, hopefully in the time for pre-sales, there's going to be a more detailed table of contents, and you get to know a lot more about what's in it.
Excellent. Okay, I think that at least maybe it's me, does say that there is a DNS issue right now. So
No,
I guess
No. I swear I fixed it. No, it's working here.
No, it says this site cannot be reached. Anybody has this problem?
Ah, so that's probably why Paddle told me that the website is not up. But I mean, why is there no issue for me then?
No, well, it's actually opened by Bharat and for Lori and for Sylvia.
Yeah.
Maybe it's me actually. I don't have any VPN though here. Interesting. Maybe it's cached. I don't know. Okay, but the most important thing is it works for the people attending. So that's great. Okay, so who cares about me, right? It's not so important.
We care about you.
But I hope I will get a preview of, oh, that's very kind. I hope I will get a preview to the course. I'm very excited about this as well. All right. Oh, but
my website is not working either. Okay, cool. So I think I know what I'm going to be spending my night on.
Oh, by the way, doesn't work for me either. So, but not, maybe the internet is not working for me today. It's a sign that the internet gives me like, go. You just leave. Just leave.
You should turn your back now.
Yes, I could, but this would be very unprofessional.
Yeah,
I'm looking with the back to the camera.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, because I have a stop sign here.
Yeah, he has a stop sign.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you so much, Sarah, for being with us on your birthday. And it's been wonderful. If you still want, of course, if you still want to share some insights about what you wish Sarah, you can find it in our Fig Jam that we have created for Sarah. And we will be posting, if it's okay with you, Sarah, as well.
Yeah.
Just to see what will people then wish. I'm very excited to see this. There are birds there already. So that's going in the right direction, I think. All right. Well, with this in mind, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. I'm very much looking forward to see you, Sarah, again soon. And I hope that you have a wonderful, peaceful, and calm and relaxing, hopefully, rest of the day, not working too much.
Thank you. Thanks to everyone else. Thank you for everything.
Thanks, everyone, and bye-bye.
Bye.